Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of The Inciting Incident. I'm your host, Tim Shields. Before we get started, please like, subscribe, rate. It really helps the podcast. It helps the message get out. I hate sounding like a beggar, but it's the reality in this algorithm world. So the reason why I started this podcast is because I love hearing the human stories behind public figures, especially stories of overcoming. Because we've all got these things we're trying to overcome in our life. And many of these obstacles come from the core wounds of our childhood. These core wounds live within our feeling body like thought parasites until we have the courage to address them. So speaking of stories of overcoming, I'm excited to welcome today's guest, Katie Maris. Katie Maris is a brand experience expert, TEDx speaker, and #1 best-selling author of Custom Her Experience and More Women, More Money. Or as I like to say, more women, more money. I'm sorry, I could not help myself. It was like a layup. So anyway, she is a driving force behind customer experience innovation and women's empowerment, helping brands design customer experience programs that deeply connect with the female customer and deliver real business results. She has inspired audiences around the world and worked with powerhouse brands like Volvo, Toyota, Lexus, Honda, Celebrity Cruises, and Canada Post. Katie, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into your story because I've listened to your TEDx speech, and it's quite a story. So I usually start these podcasts with the same question, which is, who were you? Where were you? And did you have any idea who you wanted to be when you were 17? And I have a feeling this intro question is going to kind of take us back a little bit earlier in childhood. But let's start at 17.
Yeah, no, I had no idea who I wanted to be at 17. At 17, I was still surviving. And it was the year before my parents divorced, finally, which was a really good thing because it was a very toxic house and home environment. At 17, I was a mother, a chef, a tutor, like working full time, graduating high school, just kind of keeping my nose above the water and keeping the peace within the house. So if we fast forward about a year and a half, about 19 years old, my mother kicked me out of the house. It was a big dramatic moment. Broken glass tables, and told me, I just don't have room for you here anymore. I don't want you here. And so in that young adult era or season of my life, I didn't know what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be. I ended up living with my dad, who had, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, gambling addiction, who stole all my precious jewelry and sold it so he could have some money to feed said addictions. And so that was between the age of 17 and 19, 21 in there. And, 20, 17, 18, 19. Those are those years. So yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to be until I was in my mid-30s after having children.
So what did you do when you got kicked out of the house?
Well, that is when I took my dad in, and that's when I moved in with him. And then after that, I was around that time I started dating my first husband, and I moved in with his parents because I needed to get out of the current situation. And so I lived in the basement of their house for many years before we went out on our own.
And you had a child, right?
No, I did not have a child. So when I say I was a parent, I have two siblings in which I was literally the parent. My parents would go out after work, come home drunk, not be present at all. So I raised my brother and sister. I had my first babies, because I have twins, when I was 26 years old.
Okay. So there was a lot of chaos in your...
So much.
Did the chaos, did it go back to your first memory, or was there something that happened that brought this chaos into your family?
It's just, I can remember as far back as being 6, 7, 8 years old, where my parents would have these parties and have friends over and they'd all be drunk. And one memory I have is my mother, intoxicated, running through the house into the pool and diving headfirst into the pool. And where the shallow end meets the deep end in a pool, and there's that kind of ridge. Well, she smacked her nose on that. And I, at 8, 9, was the only one that noticed and had to go in and get her. And so that's one of my earliest memories of the chaos that ensued through my entire childhood.
Wow. That's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
And then I remember you were saying something about your dad every night with his cigars.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that started when I was about 10, 11 years old. We had moved to a new house, and he would sit and he would drink until he passed out, like every night from about 10, 11 until we moved out. I was 18, like 17, 18 in there. And he would drink Crown and Coke. That was his choice of poison. And he would drink until he passed out, but he loved these cigars, little Colt cigars. And so I would stay up. I would put my sister to bed, and my mom would go to bed, and I would stay up for, the better half of, 6, 7, 8 years, where I would put the cigar out so that we wouldn't burn, so that it wouldn't burn the house down.
So who were your parents? Were they super young? Was there some sort of trauma or generational trauma that they were sort of suppressing, or were they just kind of lost people?
So no, I think from my dad's perspective, so his mother was an alcoholic. His dad left him at a young age. His sister ended up being, a drug addict. Like, so I think there's a lot of generational trauma on his side. And I think my mom, and I love my grandparents so much. They raised me. So any solid adult foundation that I have in my life is them. However, they were very religious at the time. And so I think there was a lot of strict rules with her. And so if I were to guess what that would be from her upbringing, is she was rebelling and not knowing how to handle it because of all the strict rules. And my dad just had genetic addiction in the family.
Wow. Yeah. I sort of talk about in my new book, like, generational trauma is really just unprocessed energy passing through a lineage. So what did you have to do to, unravel this kind of chaos that you grew up in? Because those leave very big, strong imprints that act as these subconscious wounds and triggers. So how did you get to where you, well, I guess there's a lot to say where you got where you are, but what was that moment where you were just like, I can't do this anymore. I have to change who I am?
Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes. I chose a lot of wrong men. I had to figure out my self-worth. And it came to me, my last relationship was very, very abusive, and physically, emotionally, mentally, sexually, financially, all of the above. And coming out of that relationship, he discarded me. He took my money. He left me with nothing. And I had to completely rebuild my life. I had not 2 nickels to rub together. I had 3 kids I needed to take care of. I had a booming career before him, but gave it all up during that relationship. And it was a moment where, I'm a Christian, and I found God in this moment. So for me, I had a very Job moment where he expected to have, because he's a sex addict, certain pictures taken before I'd get in and out of a bathtub. And when it was all over, my nervous system, when I got naked, to go have a shower, didn't know what to do with itself. And so I kind of dropped to the floor, and I was like, God, this is it. I'm done. I can't live this life anymore. I have to figure out why I keep choosing wrong, and I have to break that generational cycle, so that my girls, my son, don't ever live it. And so it was that moment, and I had to look in the mirror. Like, it was really tough, because at the end of the day, we can blame circumstances. We can look back at our childhood and say, oh, this is why I am the way I am. And once you are aware of that, at that moment, you have a choice. You have a choice to keep being that same person and blaming your childhood, or you can look forward and say, I want to be different. I want to dare to do different. I want to stop negotiating with my future self. I want to be happy, and I don't want to make the same mistake. And so for me, it was that moment where I was on my knees on the floor, heaped over naked. I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm giving it up to God, and I need to face my own wounds. And so every day forward, I'm highly aware of my patterns. I'm highly aware of what needs to be broken. And I've just challenged myself every single day to live in the moment and stop negotiating with my future.
So how did your sort of prayers be answered from that moment on the bathroom floor? I mean, I guess I want you to tell me about what it means to surrender, and then what evolved out of that moment of surrendering and trusting in a higher power.
Yeah. So surrendering is the scariest thing that I've ever done, because you are essentially, you think you're not taking control of your life. You're letting go of control, although you are giving it up to a higher power. It's the most in control I've ever felt, because I was no longer doing it on my own, and I was being guided. And in my prayer life, really being open and honest, and showing my heart, and not worrying about being judged, and asking the hard questions, and then hearing. That was the biggest part, is, we're all being nudged, whether you believe in God or a higher power or the universe, whatever the belief system is, there's always little whispers. There's always little nudges. And at least I can speak for myself, and I think it's most humans, you listening, you'll just ignore it. It's your gut reactions. It's your yucky feeling in your chest. It's your nervous system flaring up. And we ignore it because that's normal to us. That's a normal feeling. So what's come out of it is I started to listen to those small whispers, the guts in my stomach, my nervous system, because I was highly aware. You can't fix what you don't know is broken. And I'm not saying you listening, you're broken, but you can't transform yourself if you're not aware. And so that moment for me was a moment of awareness, and I never shut that awareness off. And from where I was to where I am today, because I've listened to those nudges, because I've walked in faith and not fear. Now, faith and fear live on the opposite sides of the same coin. And I would straddle it. Yeah. I believe in faith. I believe in faith. Well, it's all going to be okay. But at the same time, I'm making my decisions based off of scarcity and fear. That's not faith. Faith is surrender. Faith is obedience without knowing the outcome, and still walking, knowing that somebody, something, higher power, the universe, God is taking care of you and has gone before you. And so you still walk knowing it's going to be okay. It's okay. And so unfortunately, faith, you don't know that outcome. The only time you know it is when you connect the dots backwards, and you can see in your life where the higher power, where God has moved in your life because of your obedience. And it doesn't always happen fast. So in the wait, it's really hard. And I can just recount so many. Like, for example, a year and a half ago, I was in my kitchen, and I had this nudge, this pull to, people kept coming to me. You got to hold your own conference. Like, you've got to do the power of experience. You've got to, instead of you going everywhere, bring people to you. Like, I kept it nudge after nudge after nudge after nudge. And then finally I'm like, okay. And I tried it once, didn't work, tried it twice, didn't work. But this coming October, I am holding a huge conference. And because I listened to those nudges and I kept moving forward. My now husband, I just got married, and I met him at a bar across the room, and he didn't say 2 words to me. So we locked eyes for about 30 seconds, but I had that shift in my body. My nervous system like lit up in the best way. And so I sent my girlfriend back. I'm like, I don't know why I need his number, but I need his number. Go get his number. And now we're married, and I'm so glad I did. Little shifts in and walking in faith is leaning in and surrendering to those nudges and saying yes, even when you might not know what the outcome is. I don't know if that answered your question, but I've gotten where I was to where I am, with another book coming out, with, happy and married and healthy children, and a thriving business, and being on stages and being able to tell my story. I got there because I walked in faith, because I took risks and knowing that it was going to be okay, that I managed my mind. That's a big one. I didn't let emotion drive me. I fixed my thought process so that I wasn't making decisions based off of how I felt. And I mean, I can give you example after example as to how walking in that faith and listening to those spiritual nudges has gotten me to where I am.
Yeah, I think you may have kind of just answered my next question, but part of that faith is there's that line of fear, but it's stepping over it. So what is sort of either the thought process or the internal conversation when you are taking that huge next leap? Because, everybody can say they have faith, mm-hmm. but there are these internal programs that are so powerful, and they are enveloped in fear, that how do you step forward and out of that fear?
So I use what I like to call, it's the pivot method, and it's really, really simple. I don't know if are you familiar with the emotional scale, where the different levels of emotions from like anger, disappointment, grief, all the way up to joy and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I can send it to you too, and if you want to add it to the show notes. But my goal is always to sort of move up that emotional scale. And one of the best ways to do that, and if I go back, the reason I want to move up that emotional scale is because when you're in a content, happy, joyful place, you're making better decisions. And so I use the pivot method. And part of the pivot method is awareness. The very first step is to become aware. So if you're aware that you're scared, if you're aware that you're worried, frustrated, anxious about stepping over that line of fear, then you've got a fighting chance to make a change, to pivot. And so you become aware, number one, you label that emotion. Now, once you've labeled that emotion, the next step is to get super curious. What am I thinking? Because your thoughts dictate your emotions. It's not the other way around. You can't have happy thoughts and feel scared. And you can't have sad thoughts and feel happy. It's just impossible. So once you identify what you're feeling, you got to get curious and say, what am I thinking? And in that moment, when you can really be honest with yourself and you can uncover the stories you're telling yourself as to why you are scared to step over that line, what future outcome you're pretending is going to happen, then you can rewrite it and you can pivot. So life, in my opinion, is not it's not a series of these big, gigantic pendulum swings. When we pendulum swing, like New Year's resolutions, I think 92% of people give up on their New Year's resolutions by week 3 in January. And it's because they made this big pendulum swing and they think, I'm just going to do this and this is the time. The reality is a successfully joyful life that you can walk in faith is built off of tiny pivots, tiny steps, not big leaps. And so it's every moment pivoting and being aware of your thoughts. And so once you're aware of those thoughts, you get curious, you can label them, now you can rewrite them. And so you you rewrite the thought. And if you have a journal at that point, it's even better. If you can journal, this is what I'm feeling. This is the thought I'm thinking. This is the thought I'm going to think. And then you dare to do something different, anything. So I always have a set of what I like to call mindset shifters. So things that bring me out of fear and level up that emotional scale so that I can actually move into action and not let my, nervous system that's pre-wired from childhood hold me back. And so that could be dancing to your favorite song. That could be journaling. That could be going into prayer. That could be working out. Working out is a big one for me. Moving your body, taking a walk, even just moving rooms, like just physically moving yourself out of the space that you're in so that you can decide what that next action is going to be. And I find when I teach this and when I use it myself, and this is a method that I've had to use over and over and over and over again daily, and I still use it daily, it helps me cross that line of fear because I realize that I'm making it up. Like there's truly nothing to be afraid of. I think that standing still is more scary than taking the leap. But unfortunately, we build it up in our heads that taking that leap is more scary than staying where you are. And when you stay in comfort, and that's the scariest. I mean, everyone listening knows that where they are. I was having this conversation last night about being reasonable or unreasonable. Reasonable humans tell themselves that they're comfortable where they are and it's okay. So that fear that you feel, that anxiety, that shame, your nervous system is so comfortable there that is your normal. So you don't dare to be unreasonable. You don't dare to cross that line because that's your comfort. I don't know the last time if you've asked somebody, when the last time was that you asked somebody, how was your day? How are you? And the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, oh, I'm tired. I'm busy. The weight of the world. Because that's our normal. I don't know when the last time is, even myself, when I ask somebody, how are you, that I get an, I'm great. It's fantastic. I have these challenges, but I'm working through it. And so our nervous system and our lives are based off of that feeling of fear and anxiety and shame. And that's our comfort. So we reasonably live life and we don't dare to pivot. And so that's where that pivot method comes in. And let me tell you, it is hard work. It is simple, but not easy. And activating that pivot method, though, really has helped me get over that line of fear every time I feel it. Because I feel it still. I'm human. I feel the fear. I have the anxiety. I just know I'm making it up in my head.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going through this, huge rewrite of my book, and it's actually forcing me to confront all of my programs, everything that I'm writing about. I'm actually being sort of pushed through this squeeze point because I have to transmute it to actually get over the finish line. But, I think myself and so many people, I mean, I wouldn't say I came to this conclusion, but I was writing about it. It's like the mind is full of trap doors.
Yeah.
And most of us are living out of the mind. And if I could have, I kind of wrote this book because I wish it was the book that somebody gave me when I was 17.
I love that.
Because I had no guidance. I had no mentorship for these like huge questions like, who are we? What are we doing here, etc. And if I could have I spent a lot of time in therapy and everything. And if I could have just learned to have lived from the trust and intuition of my heart, rather than the fear and the worry and the projection into the future and the wounds of the victimhood of the past, I mean, it could have changed my life. I mean, my life's not over. I still have that opportunity. But I mean, I hear this time and time again, and you're just hammering it home. It's like our thoughts are either imprison us or they set us free.
1,000%.
Yeah.
If you can manage your mind, then you can the only option is to live a life of joy. Like that, if you choose joy because you choose proper thoughts, your life will unfold in the most beautiful way. It's so simple. It's not easy because this mind, and especially now, like social media, comparison, I call it the white picket fence syndrome, right? Like you think everybody has this perfect life. And I can speak personally because on social media, it looked like I had the most perfect life, but nobody knew what was happening behind closed doors. And we compare ourselves to each other when the reality, and then we have these awful thoughts, and then we attract more awful things. And our mind is so powerful. And I wish I knew this at 17. Like, I wish I knew that I could change the trajectory of my life with my thoughts. Like,
well, you are breaking. I mean, that's kind of what I think our generation is doing and stuff. Somebody has to learn it. Our parents didn't know it. So we are breaking the pattern to hopefully free our future lineage so they don't have to. Everybody's always going to have their shit that they're going to be dealing with, but hopefully they don't have to deal with this inherited generational trauma. So let me ask. Well, go ahead. I
was just going to say with my kids, I have three. I have almost 15-year-old twins and a 12-year-old, and I refuse to let them have the same trauma wounds. And trust me, they have trauma, but I've taught them how to get through it. And one of the practices I do with them every single day when I drive them to school, I ask them, what are they looking forward to? And what are 10 things they're grateful for? And then when I pick them up from school, I say, what was the best part of your day so far? And give me 10 things you're grateful for. And the reason I do this is I am, they're teenagers. They roll their eyes. Oh, mom. But I'm priming their minds to look for good. And
yes,
priming their minds and their energy and their heart space to look for that good, to give out that good energy so it comes back. And it's their first year of high school. And it was just a proud mama moment when my daughter comes to me and says, Mom, I told myself going into high school that it was going to be amazing and it was going to be easy and I was going to meet all my friends. And you know what, Mom? High school is amazing and it is easy. And I met all the most amazing friends. She's like, I have that power. And I said, yes. And, we both read the book. So we do book club. My kids and I, and The Science of Getting Rich was the last one we did. And so we read a chapter. I know the book backwards and forwards, upwards and down, but we read a chapter and then come back to each other. And it's all about your thoughts, right? It's all about managing your mind and the fact that you can have the life you want. So my 15-year-olds already have vision boards. They already have their 300 list. My daughter knows exactly what her house in Paris is going to look like. And I'm like, go for it. It's happening. It's going to happen. And she's spending, the summer in Paris this year. And so she's going to feel that in her nervous system even more. But it all starts here.
100%. Yeah. I mean, people think this is like, a physical dimension, but nothing was ever created in this dimension before the thought of it. This is a mental dimension.
Yes.
And that is the whole game. And it's almost like we are trained out of that. We are, and then, like you said, social media and everything is just such a distraction from the power of the focused mind, which is kind of what my whole book is about. But I want to ask you a question. And maybe this is sort of, I'm sure you've had innumerable inciting incidents, but it sounds like a tattoo you got in 2017 might have been an inciting incident. Can you tell that story? She's holding up her wrist if you're just listening with three little birds on it.
Yeah, we have three little birds. So this tattoo symbolized freedom for me. It was the day I made a really big choice. And it wasn't when I was 17, though. It was when I was married to my ex-husband and the father of my children. And I felt like I was so trapped. And I had 3 babies, and I swore to myself when I got married that I would never live in a relationship like my parents had. I wouldn't live a loveless marriage, and I wouldn't teach my kids that was what love was. Like I refused. I wasn't going to stay till the kids were 18. And so I had made that decision. I was on my way to a doctor's appointment, and I saw a tattoo parlor out of the corner of my eye, and I literally turned in, parked, And I said, you have 3 birds taking flight. And so the birds symbolize my children, and then me taking flight without fear. And I got it done, and went on to my doctor's appointment. Well, that night I call it my freedom plan, but that night I started to really look at what I needed to do to be self-sufficient, to be able to leave and be happy and show my kids, what happiness is. Unfortunately, I ended up, getting right back into a pattern that I have now officially broken, and entered into what I thought I'd met my Prince Charming, and it was a nightmare. But I took the first step to get out, and I believe that every failed attempt is at least an attempt. And I believe that it's one step closer to your awakening and your realization. I'll have to tell you, I had my awakening, and I'll never forget this moment when I really realized, I was out of the really bad toxic relationship, rebuilding my life. And I had listened to the book, The Greatest Secret. And I was in my car, and I was driving from downtown Toronto into a suburb of the city. And I had driven up this on-ramp to the highway a gazillion times. Like I'm a Torontonian. I've lived there. I was raised there. So I've driven this highway so many times. And I was listening to the book, and right in that moment, as I was coming up the on-ramp, they were giving us an exercise. So focus on something small. And at that point, as I was driving, I was focusing on my digital screen on my car. And then look up and open up your mind and open up and see everything. Focus small and then go big, widen your camera lens. I have never seen the city the way I saw the city in that moment. I looked up and I saw things that I didn't even know existed. It was the most beautiful feeling, but it made me wake up, because I was like, wow, we are this. I am living my life myopically, and I have guardrails on, and I'm not seeing the possibilities that are out there, because my nervous system, because my trauma, because my past has taught me that's what life is, and it's not. And seeing that beauty, I saw birds coming in, the sun on the windows of the skyscrapers. I saw cars glistening. It was just this most beautiful moment. I have never seen the world in such beauty. And so from that moment on, I have looked at life through that wide lens.
Which is a lens of possibility.
It's a lens of possibility. We don't realize the power we have to literally live the life of our dreams. It's all possible, and very quickly if we fix the mind. It's all between your ears. And I was, people say, oh, it's woo-woo, manifestation and mindset. No, it's that quantum leap.
Exactly.
It's a real deal.
Yeah.
If people ask me all the time, and, if I was legally allowed to tell you how long I've been out of this relationship, I would, because you would be shocked. You'd be shocked of how fast I have changed my life.
I mean, I'm not surprised, because you get it. And I think, one of the most, you've said so many powerful things, but one of the most powerful things is that really resonated with me, at least, is how the nervous system becomes trained to be in this myopic zoom lens, and you see this very tiny aspect of reality in which you believe you are trapped because of your past. Mm-hmm. But once you open up the aperture of the lens, you open up your life to possibility. And you are a great demonstration of how, when you did that, your life started to transform in a very significantly short amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and I mean, not all things come easy. I'm not saying it's actually simple, but it's not easy. And not everything you want happens right away, but it's choosing to stay in that mindset. So one of the things I did, and this is a great exercise for anyone listening that wants to really start, believing that what they want is happening right now. Is I call it my big five. And I took 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper, and I actually drew out what my big five goals are. And I'm not a very good drawer, so it's it's stick figures. But I drew out my big five goals. I decided, got very clear on what I wanted to achieve. And then underneath the drawing, I wrote out what that was going to feel like when I achieved it. And I put them on my wall in front of my desk in my room. And I look at that when I wake up. I look at it when I go to bed, and I don't worry about it. I just know it's going to happen. And I know it in my nervous system, and I focus on that feeling. And every time I look at that, and I'm like, it's happening. It's here. It's happened. And I believe it with all my might. And let me tell you, like, it's happening. One of the ones is, the power of experience, conferences, a happy and joyful family, things that I would have never thought I would have ever had with the childhood that I've had. And it's happened because I've chosen to believe that I was worth it and that it was possible.
Yeah. I mean, one of the ways I kind of explain it in this, this new book, in this quantum reality, all possibilities are happening in this moment. There is only this one moment, but we are living within a fractal, which is a repeating pattern at all scales. If you think of the Mandelbrot sequence or whatever, but like, we are a fractal of God.
Yeah.
And it is all just one. So like, where you are, speaking to the listener, speaking to myself, speaking to anybody, where you are right now in the fractal, like, your dream is already happening. It's just upstream, and you have to get your mind to that. And it sounds like this is kind of the great, awakening or realization that you made. You just have to alter your mind to connect yourself to this dream.
And I'm going to botch this. I'm actually looking it up. The scripture, because you bring up God. I'm trying to find it, but I'm gonna totally botch it. But basically, it's in Matthew, the book of Matthew, and Jesus says, "Don't worry about tomorrow, because I've been there and I've seen that it's okay." I'm totally botching the scripture, paraphrasing it, but essentially, it's just worry about don't even worry, but live in the now. Yeah, because there's tomorrow is taken care of. And
it's also not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed. No, it's not guaranteed. So living, and that's where, I coach on now is non-negotiable, because all we have is right now. And I've learned that. All we have is right now. We don't have 5 minutes ago. We don't have 5 minutes from now. And unfortunately, and this is, and I'm assuming everyone listening is going to be like nodding their heads, but we constantly negotiate with our future self. So whether it's, working out, for example, nobody feels like going to the gym. So they stop themselves from going to the gym. Oh, I'll go tomorrow. Oh, it's fine. Oh, I'm tired. Having a tough conversation with someone, doing the gratitude list, writing. We know what we need to do to live a joyful life, but we consistently negotiate with ourselves in the present moment, which affects our future self. And if you could just live right now, and I always say, the result you want is on the other side of I don't feel like it. Like your result that you want in your future, to make yourself do the things now to make your future self proud. So I got asked the question just the other day, how do I stay motivated? How do you stay motivated, Katie? How do you keep motivation? Is a crock of motivation doesn't exist. But what fuels me is like when you want to go to the gym, everyone doesn't feel like going to the gym, but no one regrets going to the gym. So when you chase the feeling after the fact, when you look at your future and say, that's how I'm going to feel, that's what the result is going to be, and then you use that to fuel your action, talk about the line of fear, to get over that line of fear. In that moment, you've stopped negotiating with your future self, because you're having a conversation with your future self in faith, knowing it's going to be good. It's going to be okay. And I think that's so important, because we're all focused on either tethering ourselves to the past as to whether or not we're worthy, we can, we shouldn't, we failed, so therefore we don't believe in ourselves, or we're, focused on the future where you're in fear. Can I, should I, will I be able to, am I worthy of having this result? And the reality is, if you can't physically feed your history and your destiny at the same time.
Yeah.
You're going to starve something. But if you live in the now, you're honoring your history and you're opening up your future.
Yeah. My new book is called Dream Tethering. So it's like you have to sever those tethers to the past if you are going to tether to the dream of the future, which is actually happening right now. And it's like you said, it's about choice. So let me ask you this question. What's the difference between obstacles and opportunities?
I don't think there's an obstacle. They're all opportunities. There's no difference. It's your mindset. It's the way you look at it. Am I looking at an obstacle? Am I negative about the situation? Am I thinking negative things? Then it's an obstacle. Or are you looking at saying, okay, I'm going to learn something. I can see myself growing. I'm going to go for it. And then it's an opportunity. So I would say then I guess the difference is the human and the mindset.
Yeah, 100%. So let me ask you, how about this? So your book, Custom Her Experience, the importance of tailoring your brand experience to the female audience, this East Coast accent just came out, reframes how business should engage with the female consumer. So why are so many companies still missing that mark?
Because they're stuck in their old ways. They're stuck in their nervous system of the way things are. I work heavily in the automotive space. And it is like 93% of their executives are men still. So the shopping experience is designed by men, for men, delivered by men. And not just men, but women also are stuck in the space of this is how it was, so this is how it should be. And women are afraid to raise their hand. So there's this stat out there that says men will raise their hand, take a chance when they feel 60% qualified. A woman won't raise their hand, take a chance until they're 100% qualified. So then I look at that and I said, there's a 40% swing there, but who's in control of that swing? And it's the woman. We can raise our hand. We can believe in ourselves. We can, as a human, make that choice. And in these industries, unfortunately, so perception is reality. So the perception of humans is, oh, it's hard, it's male dominated, I'm not going to make it. And then it stays male dominated and we don't break that generational cycle because that's how people look at it. When I came into the automotive space, I never sold a car, not a day in my life. I, walked in there saying, I've got this, I'm going to help, I'm going to open doors. And then lo and behold, what did I do? I got this. I've been successful. I've opened doors and I'm making this change. But because we are so comfortable being comfortable, we don't dare to do differently. And it's in that pivotal moment, those little pivots, those little changes, we're like, it's just easier. I had a woman that I was coaching and she wanted to lose weight. And this is like a prime example. So she needed to start eating better. And she openly admitted in a group coaching session that because she was too lazy to wash the grapes from the fridge, she grabbed a bag of chips. And that's one of the best ways I can, illustrate why an industry or industries haven't changed. It's just easier to stay and do what we are meant to do rather than taking the extra 30 seconds to review a job ad to provide better language that will attract a proper female employee base. So I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, no, totally. And something I thought you said that was very interesting. And I don't know if you talk about this when you're working with businesses and stuff, but I never thought about it. But like a business has its own nervous system.
It does.
Have you talked about that? Yeah. Do you talk about that when
Yeah.
That is so interesting. So how do you in a business break up those programs and patterns of this collective consciousness?
Yeah. So even with the customer experience, before I even teach customer experience, before we even design experiences, we have to break the mindset. And so a lot of my training up front, so I mean, I'll work with organizations for a minimum of a year because it takes time to change. And I'm not a one and done. I won't take a client that doesn't want to invest that time in actual change. But I help break that mindset of negotiating with their future success. And we talk about the nervous system. We talk about how their mindset is the reason why they are where they are, but they also have the choice to change said thoughts and escalate and elevate where they are to be more successful. So a lot of work we do manifestation, we do mindfulness training. We talk especially my internal clients, like my one-on-one clients when I'm coaching, we will spend 6 months on a morning and night routine. And until that morning and night routine is done and we've started to shift their mindset, I won't move on to anything else. Because that foundation has to be laid. We have to switch and rewire that nervous system. So it's the same for a company as it is for an individual.
Wow. I mean, how wild. When I started my corporate career, however many years ago, we'll just say like 99 or something like that, there was no talk of anything like this.
No.
And I mean, it is such a important conversation. And it's not only an evolution of, the business world, but it's kind of demonstrates the evolution of our consciousness, that these types of stories are coming into, I mean, I guess you could call a business is about it as mainstream as it gets, or a corporation. What do you see how do you see this ripple effect spreading out as transformation within companies?
So I think, what's happening is, I was talking to my girlfriend about this last night about social media, how, cause she designs grids for Instagram, and she's social media like maven. And she was saying, the algorithm is primed now for authenticity, which is new. And people are sick of the fake white picket fence on social media. They're not consuming that. They want the authentic, as come as you are content. And it's not social content anymore. It's interest-driven content. And so if they want authentic, interest-driven content, what I'm seeing is that's also starting to happen in corporations, where people are no longer, especially with the new generations that are coming up in the workforce, they want to be valued. They want to be heard. They want their bosses to be authentic, and they want to be able to be themselves. And so the ripple effect is not, what I'm seeing is not, it starts in the corporation and it goes out into their lives. I was just at a conference yesterday, and I was on a panel about employee experience and culture. And one of the questions I posed to them is, what are your employees saying about you at their kitchen table? Are they saying, oh my gosh, and not using the words nervous system, but in their own words, is my nervous system safe? Do I feel happy? Am I excited to go into work and work really hard? It doesn't mean people don't want to work really hard. They just want to work hard for someone that cares. Or are they going, and that makes their nervous system feel good? Or are they going home and saying, oh, I can't stand my boss, F this, F that, I can't believe it, I don't want to go into work? And are they waking up in the morning going, oh, I have to go to work in the morning? You're going to have a much better company, much more successful company when you take care of the nervous system of your humans. Because when they feel good and they feel safe, it's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you have those safety things in place, the foundation, your employees will work harder for less, by the way, because they'll work longer hours if they're happy. So the ripple effect of focusing on how do I make my employees feel special is it goes into their home life. So you're not just impacting their own nervous system because they go home and they're happy. So they're impacting their family's nervous system because they're not complaining and bringing toxic energy into the house. It's impacting your customer experience because the happiest customer is only as happy as your happiest employee. So we have a 6-foot radius of energy around us. And I don't know, Tim, if you've heard the saying, you can cut the tension with a knife.
Mm-hmm.
So we're actually omitting 6 feet worth of cortisol. And so when you're inside that 6-foot radius of cortisol, you're absorbing the other person's yucky mojo and you're absorbing that energy. So we have these energy bubbles. And when I'm working with humans now, they'll say, if you're not positive, you're not allowed in my positive pocket. Like that's what we talk about. We're our pocket of positivity. I have 6 feet around me and I'm going to give out positivity. And if you don't have it to give back, you're not allowed within my 6 feet. And so imagine a corporation where everybody walked around with a 6-foot pocket of positivity.
That would build a collective field.
And then you would talk about the ripple effect.
Yeah. What did you mean by interest-driven content? Social versus interest-driven content?
Yeah, so it's no longer just scrolling to see a pretty image. It's no longer like social, oh, I want to be that person. I mean, there's a bit of admiration still there, but it's more of what are you speaking to your audience? Like, what is their interest? It's not social media is to be, see my life. I'm amazing. All the perfect moments. Now social media is, are you giving me something that I can use to better my life, the person consuming it? So they will choose to view you based off of the fact that you pique their interest and you're giving them something valuable to help them change. That's the difference.
Okay, I like that. So for someone listening who feels stuck or powerless, what is the first non-negotiable now you'd ask them to choose?
I would say you've got to it's awareness. It's becoming aware and holding the mirror up, and being honest with yourself. The fact is you are where you are because of the decisions you've made and the actions you have taken. And the moment you can own that is the moment your life, the doors start opening up. Like I had to, and I have, so any woman that's listening, I know 1 in 4 women are abused. 1 woman every 9 seconds experiences violence from her intimate partner. 77% of women stay silent. So ladies, if you're listening and you're in it, you've been in it, I want you to hear what I'm saying with, just with all of my heart and love. I knew it wasn't okay. I tried to leave 3 times. At some point, I had to own that I was choosing it. When you become aware that things are not okay, whatever that is for you, and you still choose to stay in it, then you can no longer complain about your life. So I would say the first non-negotiable is to become aware, like highly, acutely aware of where you are and then what you want to change and go after it. Pivot.
So is this what you talk about, the choice cycle versus the abuse cycle?
100%. Yep. That choice cycle it's self-abuse. We know something, we have the, something happens, the explosion happens. And then we walk on eggshells and we know it's not okay, but we stay. And then we think, okay, now I've got this opportunity. I can go, I can stay, I can choose the grapes or choose the chips, right? Mm-hmm. But then we see where our nervous system is comfortable and we go right back into that choice cycle. And then we walk on eggshells, we don't feel good, something happens, and then we're faced with another choice. Do I stay? Do I go? Like we're aware, do I do something different or do I continue walking this path? And we just put ourselves through this hamster wheel of yucky feelings and energy and negativity. And the reality is you have a choice to step off the hamster wheel, to stop abusing yourself, to stop going back and forth, the war between you and your mind. You have a choice to change that. And it's time to own it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm writing about this stuff and I'm dealing with this on like a daily, on a daily basis. And it's, But this whole process of rewriting this book has made me become so much more self-aware of my programs. And, now I can take that wisdom and actually spread it more into this book. But it is just this spin cycle. And, I that is kind of perhaps the programmed condition of Homo sapiens. We've been programmed into this fear cycle.
Yeah.
But I think if we can break that, on a mass scale, we'll evolve into what I call Homo lumen, which is like, the truth of ourselves as interconnected beings of love and light. Because somehow along the way, I don't believe what we're experiencing as humans is the truth of humans. Like, I think this story has been captured somehow and we've been manipulated. I believe in the purity and the goodness of humanity. What would you tell your 17-year-old self, or your 19-year-old self, that younger self who is just starting this journey?
Gosh, that's so hard, because I'd want to tell her so many things. Like, I'd want to have a deep, long conversation because I've learned so much. But I think the thing I would say, or there's two things. So gratitude and being grateful for what you have right now is a huge shift. So, you asked the one thing that I'd make non-negotiable is awareness. The second thing right close to after that is to be grateful for what you have in this moment. The cup of coffee, the sunshine, focusing on what you do have, focusing on abundance versus lack really sets you free, because you realize, oh, well, holy crap, I do have it. I do have everything. Even if it's just the fact that you woke up today. So I would talk about to my younger self to just be grateful, even in the hard times and even in the wait, because there's always, light is its brightest in the darkness. If you find the little bit of light, then you can illuminate your darkness. So I would say that, but then I would also say it always works out. It always works out. And so we don't need to live in worry and stress. We don't need shame, and we don't need that nervous system that feels like crap every single day. Because the reality is the little piece of drama that you're feeling, if it's not going to affect you in 5 years, then don't worry about it, because it always works out. And when you move up that emotional scale, you're attracting more positivity. So the sooner you can get to a point where you're feeling joy and you're feeling love and you're living in abundance, the sooner God, the universe, will bring back to you tenfold what you're looking for. But if you stay stuck in worry and fear and frustration and shame, oh, is it going to work out? I'm scared it's not going to work out. And you cycle again, that choice cycle in your head, that war between you and you're going to invite more of that type of energy back into your space. So I would say to walk through life knowing it always works out, and just be grateful for what you have right now.
Yeah. Okay. So this brings up one more question. The caterpillar to the butterfly has to go into the chrysalis. I call this the transformation chamber. So when you are in the transformation chamber, which is for the caterpillar, it's literally a process where it releases enzymes to liquefy itself to become something else. What do you do, or what do you tell yourself when you are in the transformation chamber?
So it's funny. I talked about this in one of my podcast episodes not too long ago, but your old self is going to come with you as you develop your new self. As you transform, your old self doesn't go away. And you have to give yourself grace. And I actually think it's something to celebrate. Unfortunately, we tend to beat ourselves up when we mess up during our transformation when we're trying to change. Oh, I just can't get it right. Oh my gosh, why can't I keep the habit? Why does it keep breaking? I'm trying. I think you should celebrate it, because when you notice, and back to awareness, when you are aware that your old self is rearing, your old habits are rearing their ugly little heads, it's bubbling back up, you should celebrate it, because that means you're transforming. So again, you asked what the difference is from obstacles to opportunities. In your transformation, it's, are you kind to yourself, or do you beat yourself up? And giving yourself grace is incredibly important. I operate off of, the 4 G's, grace, growth, goals, and, I'm messing it up, but, grace. You've got to give yourself grace. You've got to give yourself gratitude. You've got to make some growth happen. And then you have your goals: grace, gratitude, growth, goals. And when you start and end with grace, you are giving yourself permission to transform. But I think the biggest thing in transformation is your old self will come with you, and you have to be kind to yourself as you transform.
I love that.
Anything good doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. You have certainly dropped a lot of wisdom bombs. I love that you have to give yourself grace in the transformation chamber. Gratitude is a recurring theme that I've heard from so many of my podcast guests. And then the other thing that I think is very profound is that, our nervous system. And the nervous system, if you want to create new opportunities, you have to be in a place of safety. And that is what a regulated nervous system does. It allows you to feel safe in your body in this world. So I love, you dropped a lot of wisdom, and I'm grateful that you had the courage to pursue the path that you did and to get out of where you were, so you could bring this body of wisdom into the world. So
thank you for listening. Yeah. So I'm so grateful for any platform that I can share, because we all have a story. And I'm going to tell one last story before we sign off here, because I think it's really important. I was sitting across a dinner table with somebody who wants to write a book. And I had met her husband, a few months prior, and I gave her a signed copy of my book. And in it, I said, write the book. It was a directive, write the book. And I said, you give this to your wife. And she is this incredible story. You talk about transformation. She had her face completely mauled in like South Africa, and it was broken. And she's just come out of it. And she couldn't even look at her face. She didn't have face structure, anything. And she's just this most beautiful woman. And she's wanted to write her story of how she went through that and continued to go through life with less worry about what we look at, so on the outside versus what's on the inside. And I sat across the table from her, and she's a Christian woman, so I was able to just reference God a little, and I looked at her and I said, it is selfish. It is selfish to keep your story to yourself, because God didn't put you through that. He didn't bring you out of it for you not to help someone else. And so I apply that to myself, that it would be very selfish of me. I've been given a platform. I've been given skills, whether it's writing or speaking on stages or doing podcasts like this, to have kept it to myself. So I am grateful to you for giving me the opportunity to share it, so that it could hopefully change at least one person's life.
I have no doubt it will. Thank you for that. And yeah, I appreciate your wisdom. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can Google me, just Katie Mares, and everything will pop up. It's funny. My daughter's like, Mom, my friends Googled you. You have an overview. I'm like, what does that mean? had no idea. But so I will pop up, but on Instagram at Katie Maris. Instagram is very much personal. So if you want a view into my life and everything that I talk about here, it's on there. On LinkedIn, it's very CX focused, so you can catch me there. And Facebook's kind of a combo of the two of them. But you'll find me on all social platforms, and feel free to reach out and DM. I answer every DM. So if you're interested in, even just talking to somebody and getting over that hump, don't be afraid to reach out. That's why I'm here. I've been put on this earth to help people transform and realize that it's okay when it doesn't happen overnight.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, folks. If you like this, please share it. You can find me at therealtimshields.com. That's also my handle on social media, etc. This has been another episode of The Inciting Incident, and it was very inspiring. So until we meet again, be well.